This week, the Wildcats celebrate homecoming and go head-to-head with Nicholls State. I'm Max Preston.
And I'm Grant Boone. We'll preview that homecoming game against the Colonels and take a look at three of ACU football's all-time greats. It's the Adam Dorrel Show right now. Welcome to the Adam Dorrel Show from the JMC Network studios on the campus of Abilene Christian University. I'm Grant Boone alongside ACU senior journalism major Max Preston and the head football coach at ACU, Adam Dorrel. It's homecoming weekend at ACU. Already been a great couple of days. Last night, a new class was inducted into the ACU Sports Hall of Fame. The parade down East North 16th in Campus Court just ended. 2:30 this afternoon. Of course, it's the Wildcat football team hosting the Nicholls Colonels. And just in time for the game, the new book by ACU's Associate Athletics Director for Media Relations, Lance Fleming, entitled Wildcat Football, 3 Cheers for the Purple and White. Let's see if we can, there you go, get a good look at it here. Coach, this is your second homecoming at ACU. You've had a chance to meet a lot of the people who are in this book. What have you learned these last couple of years since you've been at ACU about the impact that some of these men have made on the university?
Well, I think first and foremost, man, people have been very welcoming here, not just to myself and our family, but to our coaches, family, and staff, and it's been awesome, very powerful. It's what you want in a university. People take a lot of pride. ACU is a place that has meant a great deal to a lot of these young men, and to hear their stories about how ACU has changed them for the good it's powerful, and it's what you want as a coach, man. It's something coaching, there's so many great things about coaching. It's so rewarding most of the time. But just to have that feel of, no, you're changing and impacting people in a positive way, and to hear these guys talk about it, it's really, really cool. Yeah.
So you get another ranked opponent this week in Nicholls. How do they compare to the top 10 team you faced last week in McNeese?
Very, very, very similar. If you look at them, there's a lot of similarities. I don't think that's by accident. I think, Coach Rebo got there and kind of looked at what could be their niche and its defense. They're starting with their defensive line, playing 8 guys on the defensive line, really talented, hard-nosed, good at stopping the run, but also very diverse pass rushers. And usually you don't find that in both. But it starts there, and then they turn around and they just try to smash the football on offense. 3 really good running backs. But really similar opponent in every facet, really good in the kick return, punt return game as well. So we got a big challenge in front of us.
We will preview that game, ACU against Nicholls, a little bit later on in the show. But when we come back, highlights and Coach Dorrel's analysis of last week's showdown with McNeese. This is the Adam Dorrel Show. Welcome back to the Adam Dorrel Show. Last week, ACU and number 9 in the nation, McNeese, went down to the wire on a Louisiana Saturday night. With a look at the highlights, here's Rachel Poe.
McNeese was the first to score during the ACU versus McNeese football game with a 6-yard scoring pass with 8 minutes and 15 seconds left in the first quarter. It wasn't until the last 3 minutes of the first when ACU scored their first touchdown of the game when Anthony snuck a 1-yard run-in, evening the score 7-7. After McNeese's defense forced ACU to punt the Cowboys' ball, the ball came right back to the Wildcats 4 plays later when Tabry fumbled the ball off of a sack made by Hill. The ball was recovered by Junior Burgess. The second quarter remained scoreless until McNeese scored a 28-yard field goal in the last 3 minutes, and ACU scored their second touchdown of the game when Anthony threw McCray a 17-yard touchdown. McNeese took their time driving into ACU's territory. However, ACU's defense remained focused and made a big play when Gibbons tipped Tabry's pass at ACU's 35-yard, where Richardson intercepted the ball, putting an end to the first half. McNeese scored the only touchdown of the third quarter, making the score 14-17 going into the fourth quarter. Burgess made another great play when sacking Tabry at the 25-yard line on the 4th down for another sack of the game. In the fourth quarter, McNeese scored a touchdown off of a 73-yard punt return. The Wildcats then drove 75 yards in 9 plays just in 2 minutes. A few plays later, Anthony threw his second touchdown of the night. Justice caught the 5-yard pass, making the score 24-21 with 2 minutes and 2 seconds left in the game. ACU went with the onside kick, but McNeese recovered the ball and let the clock run down to just under a minute before they were forced to punt. ACU had hardly gained any yards and had no timeouts left. The Wildcats attempted one last play, however Anthony was sacked to the final play of the game. ACU fell 21-24 to McNeese, now ranked in number 19.
Okay, Rachel, thank you. 24-21 the final score in favor of the now 5-1 Cowboys of McNeese, who lead the league at 4-0. Coach, we talked last week in our preview of the game about just how stout this McNeese defense is. 7th in the nation in stopping the run. So you came out throwing the football. In fact, I can't find another time this has happened. You didn't hand the ball off to a tailback in the entire first quarter. The only run in the first quarter was a Luke Anthony quarterback sneak for a touchdown. How much of that was respect for McNeese and what they can do up front especially, and how much was it confidence in your passing game?
Well, I think a little both. I think if you go back and you look at the game plan and the actual passes that were being thrown, I think over half of them were thrown behind the line of scrimmage. And so with what we did, incorporated some crack blocking, fold blocking on the perimeter. At the end of the day, it's not a lot different than turning and tossing the football and sweep. A lot of it, though, Grant, to be honest with you, we went up there with our check with me system that's a run pass, and they were playing a lot of bear front, which we weren't expecting them to play that much. And so we try to be smart and do what we think's best for our players and not run into something that's not favorable from a matchup standpoint or a box count standpoint. And so I thought our guys, for the most part, did a good job. We would have liked to have been able to, when we did run it in the second and third quarter, had a little bit of snafu, missed some double teams, and the big thing was protection on the night. But a lot of those passes were really short, try to get real high completion percentage.
So you said winning the turnover battle would be a big deal in winning this game. It was a strip sack that led to your first touchdown in the game. So talk about how that first takeaway came to be.
Well, it did. We were doing some really good things on defense. I thought our guys played with a lot of energy and passion. I thought we were gap sound. I thought our run fits were really good, and we just said if McNeese is going to beat us, we were going to try to get them to do something they don't want to do, and that's throw the football a lot. And so, Cam came through there, stripped that ball, and it was just really good. And I really thought it got the energy and propelled us in the right direction. And then, all week we had just said that, we got to believe in this. If we're in the plus side of the turnover margin, we're either going to be ahead in the fourth quarter or be really close. And, we certainly weren't. I think when the fourth quarter started, I think the guys would tell you they were very confident and believed that we were going to win that game. And so, to come up short like we did, obviously is disappointing for the players because we just feel like we're really, really close right now.
You had 6 sacks on the night. Cam, in fact, had 2 of them. 7-7. Tie game, late second quarter. They get a field goal. They had a first and goal, and you held them to a field goal. Then you come back, and you get the touchdown on the pass to Billy McCrary. I've got to believe 14-10 leading at halftime. This game was right where you wanted it, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those games as a coach, you always kind of you do some math a little bit, and I thought if there's some way we could score 28 to 30 points that we would win that football game. I really believe that. And so to be sitting where we were right there, knowing that I think we're a pretty good second and third quarter team. I think we do a good job of making adjustments, and that's a direct correlation with the young men on our team. I think we have smart guys in our football program that are good academically and have good football IQs too. And so we went in and tried to make some adjustments to incorporate what they were doing. But yeah, we felt really good about where we were at half.
So you fumble first play of the third quarter, but next 3 plays for McNeese's drive, you get an interception in the end zone by Adonis Davis. What does it do for a team when one side of the ball picks up the other after a mistake?
It's huge because I can tell you, again, with what we're working with our program right now, when we fumbled that ball, I mean, it was just deflating on the sideline. I mean, just deflating because we talk about the first drive of the second half is most important. The defense went out there, it got them to punt where everybody's fired up, and then on a play that just should not have happened, we had a receiver who's running a slice route. He's a decoy, runs into the tailback because he's too slow and he didn't line up properly. Knocked the ball out of his hands, man. It just killed us. So when our guys went out there and got that turnover, didn't even allow a field goal. That's why it was really I was very animated when they called defensive pass interference for a second. I was just beside myself.
And then they waved it off.
Then they waved it off.
And
it's like
it was a huge moment. The only points of the third quarter actually went to McNeese at 17-14. Neither team scored for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
From the radio booth, I'm telling you, it felt like I could hear some of the hits that were going on, but there were something like 9 straight punts combined from both teams. How physical did it sound like, and what did it sound like, and what did it feel like on the side?
Yeah, it was a very physical football game. I think our players would tell you that, and so would theirs. I thought there was a tremendous amount of open field tackling, one-on-one tackling, and I think stuff like that's kind of becoming a lost art in college football right now, to see guys playing with really good fundamentals, and I thought both teams did for the all 60 minutes. The one play that we get called back, Billy got out the door, and he broke a couple of tackles there, but for the most part, they did a really good job tackling the whole night, and so did our guys.
It was a punt return ultimately that was the difference, wasn't it, in the game?
It was huge, and I just feel really bad for our punt team because that was a huge part of our game plan.
And they're good at it.
Oh, man, very good at it, and we executed all night. I think going into that punt return, I think they had negative punt return yards because they had fumbled a few of them, and Simon had, and it was just, it's one of those deals. It's hot and it's humid, and some of the starters were off because they're cramping, and put a couple other guys in, and it wasn't a lack of effort, man. It wasn't a lack of execution. They just didn't make the tackle when they were there, and we literally had 3 people that went boom, 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 and we call it firing their guns when they get a chance, and they did, and they just missed, and he did the rest.
To your team's credit, you come back to get the touchdown. Narrow loss, 24-21, the final score to a top 10 team. A lot to build on, certainly, as you go into this game today against the Nicholls Colonels. We will preview that game, ACU and Nicholls, the homecoming game, a little bit later on in the show. But as we go to break, take a look at some of the scores from around the Southland Conference last week. This is the Adam Dorrel Show. Welcome back to the Adam Dorrel Show. With a look at what's happening around the rest of the ACU sports world, here's Max.
Thanks, Grant. We start with volleyball as the team went to Huntsville last Saturday to face Sam Houston. The Wildcats were looking to start 4-0 in conference but fell short, losing 3-1. ACU redeemed itself Tuesday evening, however, as the team welcomed Houston Baptist and won in a thrilling match 3-2. The Wildcats started off with a loss in the first set, then bounced back with a win in the second. HBU was victorious in the third set, but ACU came right back at the Huskies with 2 straight set victories to take the match. Lauren Walker was a standout in the game, scoring 17 kills and 5 blocks. JC Smith also made her presence known with 16 kills. The team is now 4-1 in conference play and was scheduled to face New Orleans and Louisiana Thursday evening. We take a look at the action over at Elmer Gray now as the soccer team faced Texas A&M Corpus Christi last Friday. Both teams couldn't find the net in the game and settled for a disappointing 0-0 tie. Rachel Johnson made 5 saves in the game and Shay Johnson had 3 shots on goal. The Wildcats are now 3-2-1 in conference play. They were scheduled to stay at home for a match against McNeese Friday evening.
Okay, Max, thanks. In its nearly 100 years as a program, ACU football has produced all-time record setters, National Players of the Year, Super Bowl champions, NFL All-Pros, and members of the College Football Hall of Fame. But none ever teamed up to trample the record books like the trio of Texans who last night headlined the ACU Sports Hall of Fame class of 2018. For 2 seasons, in 2007 and 2008, quarterback Billy Malone, running back Bernard Scott, and wide receiver Johnny Knox lit up Lone Star Conference scoreboards like a pinball machine with a full-tilt offense that led the nation, scoring 50 or more points 13 times in 25 games, including 93 in that surreal playoff victory over arch-rival West Texas A&M. In all, those 3 superstars led the Wildcats to 21 wins, a pair of playoff appearances, and ACU's first conference title in 30 years. The man who brought them together was Chris Thompson, the former All-America tight end at ACU, who was the Wildcats' head coach from 2005 to 2011. On the occasion of Malone, Scott, and Knox taking their rightful place in the ACU Sports Hall of Fame, we asked Thompson, now the offensive line coach at TCU, to reflect on those guys' achievements and what they meant to Wildcat football.
I define leadership as people being able to look at you and have confidence. And when you walk down the tunnel with those 3 guys, Billy Malone, Bernard Scott, Johnny Knox, you have great confidence that you'll be able to go out there and win the game. And so, the confidence that everybody gained from being around those guys and their leadership really changed our program. You got the same guys showing up every day. You got a guy that brings great energy, brings great positive, infectious leadership, and just he's just that guy that just never, there's never any negatives coming out of his mouth, and never complained, and just was ready to go every day. And that's what, on top of talent, great talent, you know, led him to be a great player. Well, the first thing that jumps out about Billy is when he walked through the door. I mean, the guy looks like a defensive end. He's a big man to be playing the quarterback position, and so size-wise, he just jumps off the page. And then, you know, as he evolved over his 4 years, just evolved into a great quarterback, number one, but also a great leader. I think everybody in the building could look at Billy with great confidence, and you know, as his leadership role grew, he you know, he just took over and did a great job for our program. We had known Bernard Ken and I had known him at Central Arkansas, and then prior to that, he's from Vernon. He grew up in Vernon, Texas, and I went to high school with his dad. So there was some long-time connections there, and obviously connections that were very beneficial for ACU and for our football program. And you know, we go back a long way with Bernard and his family. You know, I think there's so many great memories with those guys. I think when you think about the 2008 game when we went to West Texas in the regular season, that was a huge game, and you know, all three of those guys just stood out and just completely took over that ball game. And our defense did some great things that night as well. But you know, when you talk about players collectively taking over a huge game, a national top 5 game, that was probably my best memory of those guys. Just so thankful that got the opportunity to coach those guys, and the impact that they had on Abilene Christian and had on me personally, and still to this day, the relationships that we still have. Just so grateful and thankful for those guys and what they've done.
The numbers are staggering. Billy Malone finished his 4-year career as the leading passer in ACU and Lone Star Conference history, throwing for more than 12,000 yards and 114 touchdowns. Scott and Knox squeezed Hall of Fame careers into just 2 seasons. Scott became the Wildcats' all-time leading rusher with more than 4,300 yards, and is second only to the great Wilbert Montgomery in total touchdowns with 73, again just 2 seasons. Knox had more than 1,000 yards receiving in both years at ACU and remains the program's career leader in touchdown catches with 30. Beyond the numbers, Malone, Scott, and Knox, guided by Thompson, an offensive mastermind who later became head coach Ken Collins, put ACU football back on the national map and laid the foundation that led to the Wildcats' move to Division I and the building of Wildcat Stadium. Congratulations to those 3 and the other 8 individuals who were honored last night at the ACU Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony, including former football players Phil Martin and David Wallace. We're back to preview today's homecoming game against Nicholls after this quick timeout. As we welcome you back to the Adam Dorrel Show, take a look at the conference standings in the Southland Conference. There's McNeese after surviving ACU atop the league 4-0. How about Incarnate Word now 3-0 following an 18-point victory over Southeastern Louisiana. And as you look at today's schedule around the Southland, note Incarnate Word plays Lamar, whose only win has come against an NAIA team. If UIW wins today, they'll take on McNeese, which has today off, next Saturday in what would be a battle of 4-0 teams. Let's shift our focus now to today's homecoming game. ACU and the visiting Nicholls Colonels, a remarkable turnaround coach from a team that went 1-28 over 4 seasons from 2011 to 2014 and was rewarded with a playoff berth last season. These Colonels are at it again. They almost beat Georgia a couple of years ago down in Athens. They almost beat A&M at College Station. They did beat Big 12 Kansas earlier this year. Yeah. When you look at the job that Coach Tim Rebo and his staff have done over these last couple of years, what impresses you the most?
Well, I think you just look, and I obviously didn't see film from those winning or losing years, excuse me, but there's no question that what they've done is they've built everything around defense. They're playing really, really good on defense, great defensive line, really good on the offensive line. They have a plethora of tailbacks, and they get a guy that manages the game at quarterback, and when they need to make throws on third down, he can do it. Other than that, he's been very smart with the football, fundamentally sound, and add the other component, special teams. They're just not doing anything that they're hurting themselves on in special teams.
So defensively for Nicholls, they have linebacker Evan Veron and defensive lineman Sully Lesh. They've combined for 23.5 tackles for a loss and 10.5 sacks this season. Will it be a challenge for your offense to keep them out of the backfield this game?
Yeah, huge challenge. The best thing that they do is they move them around so you never know where they're going to be at. They do a really good job of getting penetration with just what we call a bull rush, and then they'll come back and mix in a really good finesse type pass rush or a swim to get in the backfield on a run play. So a lot of kids don't have the skill set to do both, and so they're very talented across the front. They keep them fresh. They play 8 guys on the D-line, and everything that they do generates around getting TFLs, trying to get you in 3rd and long situations.
Let's talk about Nicholls' offense against your defense quickly. You mentioned they want to run the ball, don't
Yeah, they do. They make no mistake about it. If it's a 2-possession, 1-possession game in the 4th quarter, they feel fine because that's where they want it to be, and it just starts with running in between the tackles, being very sound with what they're doing.
Should be a great game today. ACU and Nicholls, the annual homecoming game. And just one final note here as we sign off today on the Adam Dorrel Show. This is going to be the first homecoming game at ACU in 70 years without the great Wally Bullington, who passed away in late July. Coach, we miss you, and we know now that you're part of that great cloud of witnesses cheering for the Wildcats on and off the field. Hope to see you out at Anthony Field at Wildcat Stadium today. 2:30 kickoff, pregame show on radio at 2 o'clock. You can also watch the game on ESPN. For Coach Dorrel and for Max, I'm Grant Boone. Thanks for watching the Adam Dorrel Show. We'll see you right here next week.